to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn and Sara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today, Sara Hamza is joining me from Cairo, Egypt. Egypt may be far away, but we're all part of the same interior design industry family. And it's been fun over the last couple of months to learn about interior designers from other parts of the world. Recently, French interior designer Cleopoli was on the show, and if you missed that episode, I encourage you to go to the show notes and check that episode out when you're done with this one. Today, you're going to hear how Sara is dealing with many of the exact same things that you are in your life and business. She's just doing it in Egypt, right? And the really cool part is that she has also been learning and growing her business over these last several years, exactly like the way you have, by listening to this podcast and being part of our community. Sara is a Danish-Egyptian designer and the founder of Nina June, a custom furniture and home styling brand influenced by both her Scandinavian and her Middle Eastern sides of her ancestry. As a teenager, Sara was diagnosed with RA. It impacted her life in many ways, but what she has learned and encountered by living with RA now influences how she operates her business, and she'll talk to us about that today. Our health is critically important, right? And it is important in our businesses. Just a few episodes ago, I spoke with my friend Adrian Cotton about this. In addition, it's been a theme in my Instagram feed for the last month or so at this point. The thing is, it's a journey, and that's why I'm putting it front and center at LuAnn Live this November. It is just simply a hardcore fact that health and wealth are connected. Think about it for a moment. Think about every book or article you have ever read about a super successful CEO, business mogul, innovator, any person in business that you admire. What are the common threads that is usually highlighted in that book or article, regardless of the industry of the person you're reading about? The common thread is they share their success habits. They share that they have defined organizational charts. They have finite financial processes. They have strategic marketing plans. They have established weekly, quarterly, and annual meetings with goals and accountability attached to them, all those things. But think about it again. When you read about them, what do they more often than not attribute their success to? Think about how often they include the information about their morning routine, their non-negotiable practices for the process, for exercise, nutrition, journaling, meditation. How often do they talk about how they create white space for the creativity to flow, how they create space for reading, for expanding their network of peers and building their relationships with colleagues? Every single time, that's how often. I don't think I've ever read about a successful leader or entrepreneur and they haven't at some point talked about this facet of their life and how it dramatically impacts their ability to be successful. Okay? I don't think I've ever read about a so-and-so who achieves this and this or this and that without learning about their personal system for mental and physical health. Am I right? Does that ring true for you? So we've been having these conversations on the show for years now, and now I'm bringing these conversations to our in-person conversations as well, starting with LuAnn Live, Health and Wealth, a well-designed business within a well-designed life, because I know that we cannot create one without the other. At least we cannot create the best version of what we are capable of achieving. And I want you to create the best version of you and your business. So Go to LuAnnLive.com to learn more and register. The ticket prices are going up on August 7th. So join me. Let's make 2024 your year for health and wealth. Okay? Now, sometimes, as you'll hear from Sara, it is your health journey that impacts how you approach your design process. In fact, Sara explains that it was through listening to this podcast that she finally understood her why, her Fred Berns only, right? It's like we say all the time, your Fred Berns only is usually something right in front of you. Although the tricky part is we usually have to go inside deep to see what was right there on the surface all along. But you can do it. And today, Sara is going to tell us how she did it. Hi, Sara. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, LuAnn. Thank you for having me.
So I'm super excited about this because I think you reached out to me by sheer coincidence, but today, the day that we're recording, the show that is live, that airs today is Cleo Poli, and she's from France. And I said in that outro, I'm looking to expand this podcast more internationally. And I know that I have international listeners, but I haven't had international designers literally fill my inbox the way I do with American designers. And so today I'm super excited because you just like telekinetically, ESP in the universe got that message months ago that this has been on my mind. And you are a designer from Egypt, and this is super exciting for me. So thanks so much for being here.
No, really, thank you. I've been listening for 2 years now, every day on my way to work, and it has shifted everything that I knew from before. I was just randomly looking for business for designers because it's something that I know nothing about, and I just felt that I lacked a lot. And like all the like, okay, we have to take care of the sales and the marketing and the processes and all that. And every time I listen to your show, I learn something new. Even if I read like the title that says something, I say, okay, that doesn't really relate to me, because a lot of the things are in the States, it's a million miles away.
Yeah.
And then I still learn something from the show. It's quite amazing. I mean, I can like we'll probably mention a lot of the things that the aha moments that you're talking about. Yeah, I got a few.
That's awesome. I love that. And what's interesting is I've had the benefit over the last 15 or 20 minutes to get to know you a little bit in your background. And, you are a furniture designer, you have a background in engineering, and your husband is an architect. And so it's super interesting and cool that you're still come to the show with such a, really in-depth background and a specific background. But I guess to your point, it's the business slice that was kind of the elusive part, right, Sara?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think all designers, because our education is mostly focused on the physics or the aesthetics, or, it's not really focused. Okay, fine, you're great at this, you're talented, you've learned something, but like, how do you get the business to go around? Like, what about the sales? What about the marketing? What about hiring? When do you hire people? That was actually my first question. And then every time I listen, magically the question is answered. And I'm like, wow, this is such a great show.
That's so funny. I love it. I love it. I'm so glad that you've been part of the community for so long. So here's the thing. Because we're like recording today, and this episode with Cleo is live today, you haven't had the benefit of listening to her show yet, but it's interesting to me, the parallels with French interior design and Egyptian interior design in as far as the business models. And what we learned with Cleo today was what I've just learned from you similarly, that in Egypt, you were describing to me that pretty much like your husband as an architect would be the person to work with a client on selecting the things that go into building the home, but rarely does that person then take it to the next step and do the interior furnishing stuff. And that's sort of the way it is in Egypt as well, is what you were describing. Talk to us a little bit about that, Sara.
Yeah, so obviously you have all kind of models, but the most common model is that the designers deliver the design and don't give like a full key solution, as they say. They don't furnish the house. So sometimes I have clients that come and they already have the 3Ds and everything, but they don't really know how to take it from 3Ds to reality. And then along the way, we might change a few things like color palettes or certain elements that are in the 3D designs but are not available, or maybe they didn't really like it that much, but like, didn't want to change it with the designer because it takes time. Um, so that's where I come in. That's where I come in and give them like a mood board with all the elements that are actual products in the market available. We also work according to their budget and give them that full solution where we furnish the whole house in the end.
Interesting, right? So that's interesting. So the person, the professional before you, is often going so far as to literally designing a sofa will go in this spot, it'll be this size. A rug will go in this spot, it'll be this size. But they rarely take it to, and this is the sofa, this is the rug, this is the actual pieces.
Exactly. And another problem that's in the market as well, that we have a lot of compounds that deliver finished homes, but they're all similar. So my clients come to me and want like more personalization, and that's where I come in and do the mood board and pick out the furniture and the color palette and everything.
So it's interesting you're using the word compound, and I'm thinking in the States we would call it like tract homes, right? Like a builder, a construction firm, a developer would
A
put up
developer, yeah,
maybe,
real estate
yeah,
developer,
develop,
yeah,
right? They'll put up 10, 20, sometimes 300 homes in an area,
exactly,
and maybe
yeah,
there's three models, and it's like
yeah.
pick your model, right?
Exactly. It's either like light colors or dark colors, but then in the end, like all the homes are exactly the same.
Right. Okay. Okay. And so, is this something where, since I love when I talk to somebody who's been listening to the show, because I know we can go right to shorthand on the conversation, right? So, is this something, right? So, is this something, Sara, where, you know, in that particular compound of homes, there are different demographic levels too, like one, X amount of families, they're going to get in, they're going to purchase that home, they're going to figure out the furniture on their own. But then there's also maybe higher income people that are definitely going to use an interior designer like yourself. In other words, we're always looking for that target client. So is everybody in a compound pretty much your target client, or there's variations within a compound?
I think there's always variations, some people like want to be in a certain compound and just struggle with paying off the mortgage just to be there. And others go in and completely and hire a full, like a designer that completely tears down the walls and everything. And then you have like a huge slot with people that just want this extra touch.
Mm, okay.
And that's where I come in.
Okay, okay. So I mean, listen, it's human nature, right? Not centric to the Mid East or the North America or anything like that. It's like, some people, like you said, it's like this is the place that we want to live, this is the place we want to raise our children, and maybe, some other things will have to go by the wayside in order to do that. But we all make our value judgments, right? And
Yeah.
so what it says to me is you still are facing what we face here in making sure the consumer in that compound or in any area understands what you bring, and that you're
Yes.
you're speaking through the noise of it, right?
Exactly. So yeah, exactly. That's what I try to get through my social media channels, the value of the package that I offer. That it's just
Mm.
not furniture, it's just not picking colors, but it's much more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I meet my client, I study them like I study like actors study characters, for example. I really see like their whole day. How does it fold out? Where do they drink their coffee? I have like a list of questions that I go through, and like which side of the bed do you sleep on, because sometimes a couple, there's a stay-home mom and a working dad, and then I just have to know how to design each side of the bed, for example, for their different needs.
Hmm.
I really go into detail, and I think that that's, what gives me my golden nugget, um, that I really I like to call it like designing with compassion. I hear their story out, I give it time, I listen to like every little detail of their life, and try to see how I can wrap it all in making it easier and better. And sometimes it's just small stuff like who gets which side of the closet, the walk-in closet,
Mm,
who gets more drawers and stuff like that.
right. And the thing is, I think that for the most part, probably most designers are thinking, well, yeah, I ask those questions too, or yeah, we need to know that as well. But what I'm hearing from you and what I read in your intake form that you sent me is that it's a little more, it's a little deeper than that, and it matters a little bit more to you, that you
Yeah,
really are connecting that compassion part. Not just, what I'm hearing is, Sara, that it's more than gathering information. You're actually showing up and giving compassion. Am I on the right
exactly.
track with? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Because, like, I feel in such a busy world that we live in, we give slots of meetings, and sometimes those slots are just not enough to show the care for the person sitting in front of you. And I really go that extra mile. And
Mm.
I think maybe the reason that I do it is because that, like, I was diagnosed with RA when I was 19, and I think when you go something very tough in your life, you really can put yourself in others' shoes when they're going through something that's tough. So
Mm.
I think that's why, like, I know how important it is to listen to the people in front of me, to really listen, not just like to overhear or just write information down. It's exactly like going to a doctor who gives you 10 minutes, and
Mm.
or a doctor who really shows compassion. And by the
That
way,
is.
compassion is the right word, because compassion means that you're actually willing to do something about it, versus
Mm.
empathy, where you just feel with the person.
Oh, nice distinction there, Sara. Nice distinction there. I don't think I've
Yeah.
ever heard that described out loud in that way, and that hits me. I like that. So the thing is, and I what we always talk about, like our Fred Berns only, right? And what is your differentiator? Nicole Heimer always talks about the PODs, the points of differentiation,
Yeah.
and your conversation there around your journey with rheumatoid arthritis reminds me of Cheryl Janis way back in the very beginning of the podcast, and she talked about the physical health challenges that she went through for several years in a row. It was one thing after another, a very tragic car accident, and then it was other things,
Yeah,
and it
I
just
heard
kept
that show.
piling up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
yeah, and that's so funny, right? Because that's way back to the first year. And the thing is, she was feeling the disconnect. She was feeling that when she was going for all of the doctor's visits and the physical therapy visits and all the collateral, side types of disciplines, the chiropractic and all the stuff, um,
Yeah, you're just a number in the line.
that the places were not conducive to healing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And so I love that, because at 19, to be diagnosed with such a serious disease probably
Yeah.
was terrifying.
And I had
Right.
just moved to Denmark to take my university degree, and I was like, all passionate, and I wanted to be this world-known designer, and it just hit me on the head, like, what does this mean? Like, why is this happening? But like over the years, I then realized maybe it happened for a reason, like, and the reason is me being more compassionate with other people in every way. So
Mm,
yeah, I think. But I mean, what I want to say is, I don't think that is just for me. What I think is, what I want to also hope that somebody would learn from this is that you can be compassionate in general, because I think that
Mm.
any person in any point of their life might face something, and if you've already been through that or not, um, is I mean, it will happen at some point. And I think holding on to this human element is super important.
Mm.
So the human centered design, so putting yourself in other shoes, it's not only for the sake of being human, but also if you want to like translate it to a small business plus, we can say that people really pick up when someone is genuine and when someone is reliable and trustworthy. And when your client sits in front of you and feels that, you're booked on the spot.
I love it. I
I
love it.
think, yeah, I think it has nothing to do with where you're from. I think it has something to do with you being human.
Mm. And what I'm hearing too is interesting is at first I thought I would ask you, "Oh, what are these questions that you ask your potential clients and to get to know them and to develop this rapport and this trust and this compassion?" And I realized it's not relevant what the questions are now. It's what it is the way you're listening.
Yeah, exactly. And you connect.
It doesn't matter. Pick any 10 questions. It's because when I think about your experience as a young girl, 19 years old, and all the doctor's visits,
Yeah,
that's very visceral right there. It's like you're not you probably had 1,000 opportunities or 1,000 situations in your mind you thought, "That doctor's not hearing me. That doctor, I have more questions,"
exactly.
right?
I had a
Mhm.
doctor at a point that said I would be dead by 30, and yeah, of course that was here in Egypt, unfortunately. But I mean, I, yeah, I mean, I've been through a little bit, but I think the most important lesson is, and maybe that's for people who are going through something similar, is that okay, so RA made me choose. I
Mm.
couldn't have the best career in the beginning. I had to take it slow. I was so fortunate to meet my husband early on. So when we decided to get married and have kids, I couldn't both like have the career and the marriage life and the kids and the social life and my family. So I had to pick and choose like what's the top two for this month or top three. I couldn't
Mm.
be all over like most of my friends were. And
Mm.
that made me realize what's important in life.
Mm.
Like, what are your priorities in life? Is it to be
Mm.
there for your kids, or is it to be successful, or is it to be there for your family and friends? Like, it really made me think about all those things because I had to choose very early on.
Because the limitations of the disease, because of the limitations of energy from all of that, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like the more you stress, like the disease is maybe not a lot of people know, but the more you stress, the more you get attacks and the less you can physically
Mm.
do. So you have to have a super balanced work-life balance and like physical
Mm.
life
Yeah,
balance.
it's hard choices every day. You can like what you're saying is you can't stay up till 2 in the morning doing client work and then think you're going to get your kids off to school in the morning and then have dinner afterwards with your husband and your friends.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. You're not getting through that day.
Yeah, exactly. No, you have to pick and choose all the time.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's an interesting thing to face at a young point in your life, right? It's to because the lessons that you learned now, I'm looking at you. You're gorgeous. You look healthy. Hopefully, you are both as much as you look.
Thank you.
Um, but it's like the lessons, right? They
Thank
stay
you.
with you. Like you've developed that discipline of choosing what's really important right now. That's we don't all have to do that every day.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're brought up in a way that to believe that
Mm,
everything happens for a reason and the reason
right.
is not a bad one. So when something happens, we really just have to work it through and understand why,
Mm.
like what's the reason behind it and turn it into something positive. So another thing that was positive, by the way, that I learned to delegate
Ah.
because I was really I was very bossy and like a
Mm.
self-doer and all that, and I learned to delegate. Okay, if I can't open this bottle of water, my husband can do it.
That's
And
some
then
delegation there,
I just
right?
kind of abused it later on. Yeah. Instead of getting upset about it, I learned to enjoy it, you know.
And that's awesome, and I love that. I know every single one of us, when you're like, I learned to delegate, we're thinking of the big things. We're thinking about run and pick up the tile for me at the, you know what I'm saying? You're like, no,
Yeah,
I need somebody to actually open the water.
it was the small stuff. Yeah,
But I
exactly.
love it because in that just simple act of getting accustomed to saying, I need you to please open the water, right? Help me,
Help
right?
me.
Like that's it. When
Yeah,
we're type A
yeah,
driven,
yeah.
entrepreneurial people, it's like, I'll just get it done. But that doesn't serve our business, right?
That
Yeah.
was one of the biggest challenges. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was one of the biggest challenges to just, accept that I can't do everything. But with time, like now when I look back, I'm actually really happy that I learned this lesson early on, because now when I have a business that I'm running and kids to take care of and all that, eh, I'm there. I'm at that stage where I know I can't do
Right,
everything,
right,
and I
right.
delegate.
I love it because what
You know?
happens is you know that I say on the show all the time, know what you will do and know what you will not do. Like just get it clear in your head what you will do and what you
Yeah,
not do. It serves us in 1,000 ways. It serves us when we're going into a negotiation with a client. It serves us when we're going into a situation with our toddler. We're like, all right, am I really going to fight to the death to put this kid to bed, or am I going to actually let them come down and watch one more, blippy episode, right?
yeah.
Right?
Episode.
And there's
Yeah,
times when you
yeah. Exactly.
go in knowing the difference,
Uh,
but to think about sitting in that, I call it your power, the power of knowing your non-negotiables. And so for you to as a young person learn these lessons, have these observations, go through this, and then now transfer it to your business. Like, do I really need to be the one doing this? It's like, well, no. So, and you have the
exactly.
positive reinforcement experience created by need, where you're like, hey, when I don't do all the things, they still can turn out
Yeah.
good, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, and I think also, like, what I'd like to say is there's also a social pressure of that you have to be successful at a certain point in your
Mm,
life. And sometimes life doesn't deal the cards fairly,
mm,
yeah? So that you're not at the same level as your peers is
right,
fine. Like, success is not, what do you call it?
right.
Success is relative. So actually, that's another thing that I learned on your show. So how, like, I learned how to define success for me. It doesn't necessarily mean that I have 1,000 projects or that my revenue is $10 million. But for me, it's satisfied clients that I can see are using my design in a way that I imagined that would be better for them, and happy kids and my husband, of course. So this balance, yeah, just have to remember not to forget him. This balance is really what defines success for me, and it just took a huge
Mm,
pressure off my chest, because I have to stop. I mean, I just stopped
yeah.
comparing
I
myself
have
to
to say,
others. I'm happy
I
where I
love that,
am
Sarah. I
at this
identify
point.
with that very much at the stage of my life. You have three kids, all under the age of 10 years old, and I remember that the stage of my
Yeah,
life, getting the kids to what the point that I always called, they're not cooked yet. Like, okay, even to me in college, you're
yeah,
not entirely cooked, but you're pretty cooked, okay. But all the way through high school, to me, it's not like, okay, you're 10, you're done. And the thing is, I remember having the
yeah.
same barometer. It was always the internal dialogue of, what can we do to make this business,
Struggle,
yeah, what can
yeah.
we do to make this business more successful, what can I do to grow more designer clients, what can I do to up level projects or whatever. But then it was always the reality of, we've got humans
Exactly.
here, we've got to put them out into the world, and this is primarily my job. I mean, my husband, he's born in 1948, it's a different generation. It's like, it's like, your job, make
No,
them
but,
good,
but
I'll
I
be here
mean,
to pat them on the back.
and make them. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, it's still
Oh,
like
your
this here, though.
traditional culture?
Like the Middle
Yeah,
Eastern
yeah.
culture. Yeah, I mean, we're still traditional in the sense that it's actually the woman's job, and the husband is like a helper
That's
in
it.
where it comes in those areas. But I'm so lucky to have my husband, honestly, because he's not typical
Mm.
Egyptian in that sense. And because he's an architect and he has his own business, so whenever like I'm busy with my deliveries and he's not at that point, he jumps in and takes care of whatever needs to be taken care of,
That's nice.
and vice versa. So in that sense,
Yeah,
I'm really
yeah, yeah.
lucky, you know.
Well, I have to say, I mean, it's probably a part of his nature because you were attracted to him, but maybe also part of it comes from in those early years when the RA was really a point of your life.
Exactly.
He had to get you a glass of water and probably change a
Yeah.
diaper, right? Like let's be real.
Yeah.
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 So,
Exactly.
and he
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
learned and understood, hey,
Yeah.
why not? Like, yes.
So he was trained well to begin with. That's why
Yeah.
it came handy when the
That's
business
it,
grew,
yeah.
you know.
No, but I mean, I really and I just wanna, like, reemphasize that point about the seasons of life and that I share that value with you, and, of course, listen, the second the youngest was
Yeah.
in college, it was like, "Okay, game on. Let's go." Yeah, like, "Let's
Now
just
you can
blow this
breathe.
thing up. What are we gonna do? What's next?" Like, and it was so funny because I remember she'd come home from
Yeah,
college, I'd be like, "Oh,
exactly.
we're not gonna be here this weekend. Why are you coming home?" "No, we're out. Goodbye."
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny because when my mom or dad are complaining about retirement or something, I say I just can't wait till I'm retired. I
Wanna
have
do?
so many things
I
on my
wanna learn
list
to
that I'd
tap
like to
dance,
do.
Sarah. I wanna learn to play the piano. I wanna finish learning how to speak French.
Yeah, I've always wanted to sing and I never did
Exactly,
anything
and I
about
have
it.
to see the
Yeah, yeah.
pyramids,
I
by
know,
the
there's a
way. I
whole
have to see the
list.
pyramids, by the way. I
Then you
know.
have to come and visit
My
me.
husband has no
Yeah.
bucket list, Sarah. He has no bucket list. He wants his bucket list it centers around his brothers and his children. I just wanna have time with these people. And I'm like, "But could we do it in Egypt or at the Red
Yeah.
Sea in Israel?" And he's like, "No." Like, "But I wanna go to Dubai." He's like,
Yeah.
"Why?"
Compromise. That's the problem when you when you have a partner, you
I
have to
know, I
compromise, I
know. Well, my
guess.
solution is now getting invited to speak overseas. So this year I've manifested Germany. I will be speaking in Germany. So he can't say no to that.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
really
that'd
hope
be
I can
great.
make it there, and meet you
Yes,
in
yes,
person.
yes.
That
And
would
I'll
be
put the
great.
info in the outro. We'll talk about that in the outro. So, okay. So I love this whole perspective. And this is, what's so funny, Sarah, is when I meet designers in real life, at events and so forth, High Point and Las Vegas Market and all the things, even at my own event, LuAnn Live or Power Talk Friday, often they'll say, but I have a hard time really figuring out my Fred Berns only, that thing that makes me different. And this is such a great
Yeah.
illustration of we're not looking for something so far away. We're looking for something that's truly part of us. And we're just looking to do that in
Exactly.
inward contemplation on what is my real why here, because it usually falls from that. It usually develops from that. And that's seems like your exact experience, right, Sarah?
Yeah, exactly. I think it has a lot to do with
Mm.
maturity as well. Like when you're a young designer, you just think you're so great. Like this chair I designed, it's fantastic. And the ego is very
Mm.
big, and then as you move on, you just realize a lot of stuff is missing. And the more you look into the stuff that's missing, the more you realize what it is you're really
Mm.
made of and what you stand for and what it is you want
I
to
love
bring
it.
to
I
this
love it.
world.
Yeah, I love
So,
it.
yeah. And I think at that point, that's where you can actually
Mm.
design better because design needs this kind of experience,
Yes,
this kind
yes.
of
And so
depth, you
let's
know?
let's turn into that a little bit because you are actually a furniture designer. And in fact, you mentioned to me off air that you have four different revenue streams and one of them is designing
Yeah.
furniture. So talk to us and you have a factory, a workroom that produces it for you. So and you produce it for other designers in your area and you're getting ready to open the market to the US market. So, talk to us about the first of all, what is the name of the design end of your firm, and how does a designer access it and find it? But then talk to us about what are the types of furniture that you design yourself.
Yeah. Okay. So, my brand's name is Nina June. Nina is my Danish
Oh,
grandmother's name, by the way, and June
oh,
is my mom's middle name. So it's basically just it's inspired by my Scandinavian roots. And the brand, I have four revenue streams, like you said. One of them is designing uh, two furniture collections a year for the brand, and it's very Scandinavian inspired, but mixed with a little bit of
Mm.
Egyptian flavor. And and the vintage element is very important for me as well, because I also believe that like vintage elements, just like small touches, it really connects to your
Mm.
belonging, like to your past. And I always feel that people connect to my pieces, and I think it's because of that. So that's one of the venue
Hmm.
streams. The other one is producing for designers. So until now, we've done it locally, and we've recently just had a few designers from Saudi and the UAE, where we custom make their designs. And it's always easier for a designer to
Mm.
communicate with a designer, versus if you communicate with a factory or a worker or a carpenter. So when you communicate with a designer, it's easier and faster
You
to
speak
get
the
what you
same
want,
language, right? You know what you're going for.
Um, exactly, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I've realized listening to your show and that a lot of the American designers, they have a problem with receiving their products on time, and then they're not the correct size and all that. So I really think that like I could
Mm.
be of help in that area. Um, Another venue stream is that we do the furniture packages and home styling from scratch. So where we furnish and do the home styling,
Right.
like the whole house from A to Z. And the fourth is producing for the clients directly. So if a client comes and wants a certain design or like a certain closet, a bed, of course we tweak it. We don't
Hmm.
copy designs or anything. We tweak it for copyright,
So that you're legal.
like
Yes, yeah. So
yeah,
so
exactly.
talk to us about the different types of furniture that are part of what you guys are capable of producing. So you mentioned beds, closet configurations.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Sofas, storage units. We also do
Wow.
mirrors, eclectic pieces, and yeah, so it's lounge chairs. We actually do
Wow.
more or less everything.
Okay.
Um, but of course, within our manufacturing capabilities. So it's if it's something that we can't do, we'll go just right ahead and
Right,
say,
right,
yeah,
right, right, right.
we can't do
So
this.
you're doing so the thing is what's interesting is that you're describing how the brand, the collections and the styles that you design have the Scandinavian influence. And you described to me off air, you explained to me that you've lived your entire life other than the 4 years of your university in Egypt. Like your parents are Danish and Egyptian, but but that's such sounds like it's such an interesting pull on you, like that whole heritage thing there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like from the south to the north, and it's complete opposites in a lot of things. Um, but I mean, I think I've been very fortunate because the Egyptians value their family a lot. They're very close. Friends are very close. All the warmth from like the Mediterranean area, we really have it in our culture. And the Danes, they have zero ego. Like their ego is below zero, and it's a rule that they have,
Mm,
something called the Danish law. And this
mm.
is something that I really value. And they also have a lot of community values, so they work together as a community. Versus Egyptians, they like to work
Interesting, interesting.
solo. So all of these elements, I think, made a very
Right?
nice combination.
Yes, as you were
Um,
raised with these different values and elements in your own family between your parents, it's like taking the best of both, right?
yes, exactly. And also the thing is, like, growing up in Egypt, having a Danish mother, you're really special, yeah, because you have a
Mm,
mother who's a foreigner. But then when I moved, so I was always like really special growing up in that sense. And then when I moved to Denmark, I was in university and I was the only
Oh,
Arab and the only Muslim, by the way. So that was a completely like on the other side of the spectrum. That wasn't something that they loved, you know. So that was like a big wow. Okay, my ego got really shooken up there because I had to show that I'm just a normal person, and so like all of these things growing up, I think they contributed
interesting.
to
Like
a
you had to
lot.
overcome the bias now that you never experienced as a child. Yeah.
Yeah, not at all. It was the
Wow.
exact opposite. But
Sure.
of course, I mean, once people get to know me and stuff, and but I mean, Denmark is also a very small community, and at that point, um, like how long is it? It's what,
Hmm.
15 years ago
Okay.
now? No more. Oh my God, it's 17. Yeah.
She's like, oh no, wait.
At that point, they yeah, yeah. Well, I stopped counting at a point, but yeah, at that like 18 years ago, Denmark wasn't very metropole, and there was a lot of racism, and I didn't realize it growing up because we used to go on vacation and that was fine, but living there was a
Interesting.
completely different
Interesting. Now,
experience.
how about this aesthetic of the
Yeah.
design, like that influence of Danish design in your furniture lines? Is it something that Egyptians are
Yeah.
like, "Ooh, interesting, love it," or is it also very niche and it's only for some clients?
So I mean, it's
Okay.
very trendy now because of the whole Japandi movie movement, and yeah. So of course, it's more for
Okay.
design enthusiasts. But when people who don't really know much about design see it, they still love it because, I mean, the lines are so organic and it's different to what they're accustomed to. And in general, like a lot of you, do you actually know that a lot of the Danish designs or some of the icons, they're inspired by pharaonic furniture?
No.
I was actually
Really?
shocked to hear that. So yeah, yeah, like a lot of the mid-century designers used to get inspired by
Interesting.
pharaonic
Interesting.
pieces,
I'm trying to think.
which means actually that when I'm designing stuff inspired by Scandinavian lines, I'm actually just going back,
To your own
to my own
roots.
roots.
Oh my god. Well, it's funny because did you hear the episode with I believe it was Jamel Williams? It's funny because I just met Jamel in New York a couple of weeks ago, and I said to him, "I remember we talked about X, Y, Z," and he looked at me. So I believe it was him who described how the colleges and the universities in the U.S. are always teaching from that European, heritage. Like design is based on European heritage and European aesthetic. But the truth of the
Okay.
matter is so much of that European design, from when, me with the numbers, I don't know if it was 500 years ago, 800 years ago, whatever it was, actually is based on a lot of the African cultures and the Middle Eastern cultures. So it's like, not really so much you guys did this. And that's what you learned, right? That's what you're talking about.
I mean, yeah, yeah, but I think I mean, I wouldn't say completely because it was very basic also. No, actually, it wasn't basic because a lot of the pharaonic culture is inspired by pie. So that's actually very
Okay.
complicated as a design. But I would say the Danes or the Scandinavians in general, I mean, I'm very proud of the design methods and their pieces because I really believe like they've taken it
Mm.
to another level, production wise and aesthetically and ergonomically
Interesting.
and
It's just
everything.
so interesting when, you learn beyond your own nose. Basically, that's the aha moment for me. Like, take things beyond your own nose, right? There's probably something else
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah, I mean it's really great that you're like going international now, LuAnn, really. I mean, I think people, I mean, at the end of the
Yes.
day, they're
Well, and
very
what I
similar.
love is learning the similarities and learning the differences. It's a kind of a and the truth is it's I've always had the here and there international guests, but it's I have to say it's a long, long time. Thank you, universe, that I've had to do extensive outreach to get guests for the show. And mostly the inbox gets filled every week with designers who are saying, hey, how about this story, I'd love to share it. And I just said to the team like two
Yeah.
3 months ago, I'm like, can we get out of the sandbox here? Can we like broaden our scope a little? Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's just so funny that all of a sudden now you and Cleo both found me before I started talking about it. You know what I mean? Outwardly. Um, yeah, it is cool.
That's so great. And it really it it took me 3 years to reach out to you. I don't know why, but but I just felt like, "Hey, I want to talk to LuAnn. I have something to
And it's
say, you
easy,
know?"
right? You just say, I say it all the time.
Ye-
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually really easy. I was quite shocked. I'm like, I just messaged you on Instagram, and then when you answered, I'm like, I was dancing, jumping up on the sofa with my husband, and he's like, "Who's LuAnn? Where is LuAnn?" You know, she's in the States. It's the best podcast.
Oh my god, that's so funny. That's so funny. Yeah, I mean, it in one hand it's funny because on one hand the criteria is low, on the other hand it's very high. It's at the same time high and low. And what I mean by that is you have to teach me just one thing. But that's all you have to do too, is come to me and say, "Here's the thing that I want to teach." And for you, I remember thinking it was two things. It was I want to know what design is like as a business in Egypt and how it's similar and how it's different, and which we talked about the structure is very similar to France actually. But then this compassion element and how you came to learn it and how you came to really employ it in your business and how it is your Fred Berns only, that extra element. And what the thing about it too is, Sara, people can say anything, but there's a difference when you hear the truth of it. And what I heard when you described to me
Yeah.
is the experience of having RA, the diagnosis at 19, and you said, I approach understanding and learning about my clients the way I think doctors like you want to eliminate what that experience was with doctors where they were talking to you but not listening. And that's just so stomach punch. That's like,
Mm.
oh, she actually is talking about really learning about her clients, because you can imagine that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can
Yeah,
imagine that.
exactly. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So talk to me a little bit about this. What's a
Yeah.
day like? What's a day like for you? Give me a couple of minutes, because here you are, you're designing furniture. You've got your designs for your direct consumer clients. You have your designs for other designers. Then you have 2 collections a year that you're designing. So, you've got 3 kids. You're managing your health and your wellness, and your husband, obviously. So is it, yeah, I'm like, wait,
Sounds like a lot
where
now.
is the downtime?
I'm just stressing hearing
So
about it.
so do you like time block? Do you like,
Yeah.
I work in the production in the factory on these days and I work with client facing on these days? Is there some mechanism for managing the routine and the responsibilities, but still staying in your space of making sure you have time for your wellness?
Yeah. So, yeah, I might be neglecting my wellness a little bit.
Don't say
Uh,
that. Don't tell us that.
and when I say a little bit, it means a lot. But well, it's because I prioritize my work
Mhm,
and my
mhm,
time with my
mhm,
family and my friends, because my friends have been my friends for 35 years,
mm,
and they're my family as well. So yeah, so what I do is I try, like when I go to my office, I drop the kids off at school, and when I go to my office, I just focus very much. Like I don't have a lot of I'll go out for lunch or socialize, or like it's really like I have to get this done until the
mhm.
kids are home from school, you know. And if something like if I need to stay there longer or so, then my husband takes over. but I try to divide it into, first of all, I've yeah, okay, maybe it's important to say this. I've decided that I like when I've listened to your show about scaling up and growing and all that, I've kind of decided that I want to stay a boutique design
Okay.
business, because I'm very focused on being there for my clients. Obviously, I can't take a million clients on at the same time. Um, so I've decided for on a certain number of projects that I take per month, and
Love it.
that's what I'm sticking to. And it's always so I can be there for my kids later on in the day, where I'm just there for them and focused with them. When they go to sleep, I go back on my computer and Pinterest and everything and start like
Okay.
working on my
Okay. So,
projects.
first of all, I love the clarity in that this is, again, we talked about it earlier in the show, the stage of life where we don't really have to worry about that some other designer has 16 employees and is traveling the globe, doing projects. Right now, it's a boutique agency, it's a boutique firm
Yeah.
that you manage your pipeline so that you can manage your business. And then the going back to work at night. Okay. So look, you're a grown woman. You've been to the wall and you know the difference of what's going to happen if you continue to do that. So I'm not going to be your mama right now, but I am just going to say, don't forget the hard lesson. Right.
I know my mom's gonna
Thank
call
you.
me
And
when
then you
we're
have
done
her
with
call
this
me, and
show.
then the two of us commiserate on it. Okay. But, I'm just saying, don't lose sight of it,
Yeah.
sweetie. Don't, because you've already been to the wall. Right.
No, but LuAnn, like when moms
Yeah.
say they need their me time,
Ah,
my work is my me time.
okay.
So that's
Okay. Okay.
actually when I
Okay. I
relax.
hear you. I hear you. This has been the song that I've been singing. I, I hear you.
I think
But
it's the
now
same
I don't know
thing.
if you've been following me on Instagram the last month or so. I am on a whole new journey where I'm sorry, my me time. I love me time is my work too. I love it. It is what jazzes me up. But I really know that I spent 30 years as an adult where me time was yoga, swimming, running, bicycling. Okay. And that me
Oh, that
time
sounds good. Yeah.
supports me as a business owner better than doing one more show on a Tuesday night or editing one more show at
Yeah.
10 o'clock at night or figuring out one more email sequence at, Sunday at 2 o'clock. I know I'm
You're
right. Doesn't mean
completely
I
right.
do it, but I
Yeah, you're
know I'm right.
completely right. Yeah.
But I am working on it.
No, but it's true because like, but because I've realized when I'm in Denmark, for example, on vacation, in Denmark, you walk to the bus stop and you walk from the bus stop to wherever, and you go for walks in the forest. And suddenly I
Yes.
get ideas. It's like my brain
Yes.
is a clean slate. And
Yep.
that
I'm
doesn't really
telling you.
happen here. It's just there's always phone calls, there's always
Yeah.
stuff going
I'm
on.
telling you.
So
Yeah,
more of
it's
Denmark
the
for me,
thing
I
because
think.
I guess by the time this show airs, I guess the well, I'm still doing the Instagram. I go live just about every day and talking about some aspect of it. But I started the last week of June talking about it. So if you follow me on Instagram, you can probably go watch the videos. But for me, the
Yeah.
one shift, because what I know is if we want to change 10 things, we have to start with actually changing a thing. Because if we say, oh, these are the 10 things I'm going to change, then guess what happens is our brains get overwhelmed. We don't actually attack any of them and nothing change. And so, by the way, that's what I've been doing the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Like I've been saying, oh, I got to be like the other LuAnn. And oh my God, how am I going to have time to swim and yoga and ride and do this? Well, okay, I don't have time for it. So here's what I did, Sara. As we're recording, it's July, 18th. So I think I started like on June 25th or whatever. I'm making one change. I have promised myself I will not turn my computer on in the morning before I move my body, period. And I've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just really have to do that because I'm in my
Oh,
late
wait till you're
30s
60,
and
babe. Just wait.
yeah, I mean yeah, but if I
I
don't do anything about it now, I'll
Yep, I'm telling
probably,
you. And
you
so
know.
this is my new thing. And so I am not like saying, "Oh, I'm going to do 3 yoga classes a week and swim 100 laps," because that's not realistic for me right now. I've got to get back into the mindset. And so the mindset is I'm shifting one habit. And so, Sara Hamza, I'm looking in your eyeballs, and I'm going to ask you to shift one habit back to
Oh
what
my
you
God.
know supports you.
My
Yes,
mom is
you
going to be
tell her
so
I'm
happy
sending
about
her big
this.
hugs, right? Like, seriously, one habit back to the Sara who knew she had to prioritize her health within her family and her business. Okay. And then I'm going to get off my soapbox about it. But because I know spending this hour talking with you that you have good business sense, you have a strong business foundation, you have the support of your husband, you have your own sensibilities and experience in business and engineering that you're bringing to the table. And so we want to have for you that you create a business that you can sustain all the way through to when those littles are all in college and out of the house. And then you can work 15 hours a day. And because then you'll still have 3 hours a day to exercise and read. You know what I'm saying? Well, maybe that's not good math, but you can work 10 hours a day.
Yeah. Good times, good times.
Exactly.
Looking forward to
Yeah,
it.
that's not good
Yeah.
math, 15 and 3, and that's leaves 6. No. So you can work 10 hours a day and 3 hours to exercise, and then you'll have the other hours to sleep and hang out. So anyway, well, I appreciate you so much. I appreciate that you've been a long time listener of the show. I appreciate that you told me off air that you tell everybody in Egypt to listen to the show. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I appreciate your sharing your
No,
journey.
really, no, thank you, Luan, so much. I mean, you've really given me a full perspective of how to deal with a lot of things, both in the business perspective and in life. I think much of the maturity that I've obtained the last 3 years is because I had to look inwards. Every time I heard something on your show, I'm like, oh my God, what's my golden nugget? Or like, yeah, I don't know how to say no to clients,
Mm,
or
yeah.
like every little thing. I mean, I've really learned a lot. It was every single day, even when I felt it wasn't relatable, I just like, it still relates. It's amazing.
Well, that is music to my ears. I'm so grateful that you found the show, and I'm glad that it connected us together. And I'm sure that today you did the same thing, that you shared something that someone out there needed to hear today, Sara. So thanks for being with me today.
That makes me really happy. That makes me really happy, actually, because it's really one of my goals, um, to try to help
Love it.
someone
Love
if I
it.
can.
Okay, so something I didn't mention at the beginning of the show is this is episode 900. 900. Is that crazy? And I have to tell you, I still get a very huge, not little, not medium, but a huge thrill every time someone tells me that they love the show and that they listen to it. And what really hits me though is that, and I don't want anybody to think I ever take this lightly, is that when you tell me you've learned something by listening to the show, I love learning that it makes a difference for you. And that was the exact same feeling that I had when Sara told me that she's been listening to the show. She also said to me, any listeners you have in Egypt are exactly from me because I tell everybody here in Egypt to listen to your show. So I think that's really special and I really do appreciate it. Sara said that she started listening because, as a designer, she understood the aesthetic nature of her work, but she needed help on the back end, the building the business side of things. And of course, that's what we do here, right? We talk about the process and the system and all the things that affect your efficiency, communication, your client experience, the bottom line. I love all of that. But hearing Sara tell us how she listens to the show and looks inward each time, hearing her say how she discovered her only and that she had an aha moment realizing how and why compassion played such an essential role in her design work, that she learned that from listening to the show, that's not lost on me. And I will tell you, I am humbled by every one of you listening, supporting one another through the show that have come and shared your information so that somebody else can get an aha moment. And I love it. So I'm glad, Sara, that you reached out to me. And of course, you do have something to say, and you did have something to teach us. Every one of us does. I know that we do. It takes courage to put yourself out there, but I do encourage each of you to do it. especially those of you listening from other parts of the world. This has been really fun learning about like I said in the beginning, the same things and the different things of the interior design industry from different parts of the world. So the point that Sara made today is no matter where you are, human connection is important. Compassion and kindness are important. This was made evident to Sara when she was diagnosed with RA as a young woman. She was in and out of the doctor's offices, feeling like just another number in line, feeling like they weren't listening. And she had to ask for help. She learned that from having RA as well. She had to also learn to prioritize her activities. I can't imagine how difficult that must have been, especially at a young age. And it would be easy to get angry about it or shut it out, but that isn't what she did. Sara believes that everything happens for a reason, so she took what she learned and she moved forward with that knowledge, allowing it to improve her life and her business. And I have to tell you, I learned this lesson myself from my Aunt Honey, Eileen's mother, at a time that I was experiencing something really, really, really difficult. In the middle of the difficulty, at the height of the difficulty, she said, Lou, I'd like you to take a step now and just step outside of this for a moment and let's just have a little conversation. I said, okay. And she said, I want you to pay attention to the lessons that you are learning in this challenge, in this crisis. And she said, you're going to have to show up. You're going to have to handle things. You're going to have to do things. You're going to be overwhelmed. You're going to cry. You're going to have all the feelings. But each day, take a moment to tap in and see if there's a lesson that the universe is trying to show you. And I have to say that I have carried that with me now some 30 years. And it literally does help you process things. It literally does help you switch your mind from the crisis at hand to what is the lesson. And this is what happened in real time with Sara, right? Learning from your experiences, good or bad experiences, is the key here. Sara learned how vital compassion is, and I love how she clarified how it's different from empathy. Sara says compassion means you're willing to do something about it versus empathy, which means you are feeling it with the person. Compassion is an action, not an emotion, and I love that distinction. This is how she realized this was her why. We call it our Fred Berns only here. And I have to say, if you're newer to the show and you've wondered why I always say that you're Fred Berns only, go back and listen to the episode with Fred Berns, episode 174. We'll link it in the show notes, and then you will get it. Okay, such an impactful lesson with Fred so early on in the journey of the podcast that in my mind from then on, it was the Fred Berns only. Later episodes, we had Nicole Heimer of Glory and Brand tell us and label it for us as your point of differentiation. Okay, we'll link that episode in the show notes also. Great exercise Nicole walks us through in order how to help us identify our points of differentiation. Okay, so for Sara, she discovered her deep and genuine commitment to compassion is what sets her apart. She is compassionate with her clients by going in depth to get to know them and understand them so that she can better design their space. Of course, that's important, but as a business owner, I want you to remember the dual benefit of compassion. It helps your designs and it puts your clients at ease. They will want to continue working with you and refer you to their friends. Sara is also compassionate with her family by only taking on a certain workload every month so that she can be present with them. This is a seasons thing. We are all always in different seasons. Your season might not be the same season as Sara's right now. Our seasons change throughout our life. We need to ebb and flow with them, right? And I would say to you, honoring the season you are in personally is also an acknowledgement of how your health and wealth are intertwined. I mean, I'm just saying, think on that for a moment, and I think you'll agree with me. You might also remember the episode earlier this year with Jean Stouffer, where we discussed seasons there as well. That's episode 840, and we'll put that in the show notes as well. So as our seasons continue to change, being compassionate with ourselves and others, it can make all the difference, right? So Sara is compassionate with her business, knowing she can't do it all and delegating the things that aren't her superpower. And I encourage you all day long to do that. She is also compassionate with herself. And at least, she's working on it, right? That's all of us. It's one good day being compassionate with yourself and then another tough day, right? We don't have to do all the things and we don't have to do all the good things either. Let's just all commit, like I asked Sara to adding one good habit to our routine or deleting one habit that doesn't serve us. Working on that, on the one thing. Because once you nail one thing, then you can tackle the other. I think sometimes we try and do too many things, whether it's with our business or our health. It's like all or nothing. And it just doesn't work that way in either way, okay? Now, I want you to hear this, and I want you to understand that when you bring compassion into your mind, into your heart, whether you're directing it at yourself or others, and especially when you're directing it at yourself, you're learning to advocate for yourself, okay? That's really huge, to learn to be your best advocate. And I also encourage you to check out episode 811 with Heather Hansen, where she teaches us the 3 C's: curiosity, credibility, and compassion, to help you get to where you want to be. Heather will also be our MC at LuAnn Live 2023 in Orlando. So after you listen to her episode and you fall in love with her like I did, you will know why I invited her to be the MC, and I'm sure you're going to want to be with us in person so you can meet her. Sara, I loved getting to know you and learning about you and how you run your business in Cairo. I love your perspective and think you are right. Compassion is a tool we should all keep in our toolbox as humans and as interior designers. Thank you tons for coming on the show today, Sara. I hope all of you listening will check out Sara's furniture and designs at ninajune.net and on Instagram, where her handle is at ninajune_EG. I look forward to your launch here in the States, Sara, so keep us posted on that, okay? And then finally, I mentioned in the interview, I will be making my international debut in Germany, right? February 2024 at the International Trade Show. It's called R&T Stuttgart. In the next few weeks, we will have information on how you can register and learn exactly what day and when I will be presenting. I cannot wait for this. I think it's going to be an incredible experience. And the only thing I'm just slightly curious about, but I'm leaving it for others to worry about, is how the heck are they going to translate me in real time? I mean, have you ever seen me live? Let's just say LuAnn Live is called LuAnn Live because I tend to be a bit animated in real life. In fact, the name actually comes from my son, Matt, who for years has remarked, as soon as I get going on something, there she goes. She's live. And at that moment, the whole family starts cracking up. True story. That's how I named LuAnn Live. So no matter where you are in the world, let's keep it all growing together, learning from each other and collaborating and each helping us all to be better every single day. All right. Please join me at LuAnn Live. Go to luannlive.com to learn more. Thanks tons for listening today. I do appreciate you so much. And happy 900 episodes, for crying out loud. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of LuAnn and Sara Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or LuAnn University, go to luannsara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to windowworksnj.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.